Hi, this is CK at CK Education, and today I want to talk to juniors who are applying to colleges this year, this fall. Um, One of the steps in this college prep process is making your college list. And so every year I get the question, well, how do I make my college list? How do I know what colleges I want to apply to? So let me try to help you out with that. Let's start with the most practical, fundamental thing in making your college list, and that is money, okay? Unless your parents have so much money that they're going to pay for it, you're not going to apply for financial aid. Your parents are just going to pay for college. If it costs $50,000 a year, it's okay, kid. We're going to pay for it. Just get in and we'll pay for it. Now, some of you are in that situation, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so if you are in that situation in which your parents will pay for college, you're not going to need financial aid, and your parents are going to pay for whatever school you get into, then that's going to be a different kind of list. Okay. In that case, apply to whatever schools you want to apply to. However, but even in that case, make sure that you apply to enough safety schools. I even go as far as to say super safety schools. And people say, what are super safety schools? Those are schools that like 100% you're going to get into those schools. Okay, your GPA and SAT scores are so much above the average for that school that there's no doubt that you're going to get into those schools. Okay, so I would apply to those schools. I would have like 2 super safety schools and maybe 1 or 2 safety schools, and then you can apply to whatever schools you want to apply to. Okay, even if your parents are going to pay for college, you still got to do that because it's still hard to, colleges are not easy to get into. Okay, so just as an example, in Maryland, what would be a super safety school? Well, depends on your GPA and SAT. But for the vast majority of students, Towson University is probably a super safety school. UMBC, for some people, is a super safety. For some people, it's a safety. Okay. College Park here in Maryland, that would probably be a safety school or a target school for most kids. In Virginia, George Mason or VCU would probably be super safety for most kids. Virginia Tech could be a safety, could be a target for some kids. UVA would probably be a target or a dream school for some of you guys. William and Mary, again, it could be target, maybe it's a dream school. It really depends on what your SAT and GPA is. But again, if your SAT and GPA is much higher than the average for that school, then you can consider that a safety, okay? So make sure you have enough safety schools. I think the biggest problem is kids get all excited about, I'm going to apply to this school and that school, and I'm going to go to Columbia and UPenn and Duke, and I'm going to go to Boston, I'm going to go here and there in Chicago. And they don't have enough safety schools. And then they figure out that, oh man, it ends up where they didn't get into a lot of the schools they thought they were going to get into, and they don't have a safety net. That is very dangerous. So make sure that you have enough safety schools, okay? Have at least 2 or 3 very, very safe schools, and then you can apply to whatever other colleges you want to apply to. Okay. Now, one of the other things you have to keep in mind, of course, is now, if money is an issue, now I'm talking to the vast majority of students out there. Money is an issue. Okay. Your parents don't have enough money to just pay $40,000, $50,000 extra a year to send you to college. Okay, so if you go to a college like that, and it's going to cost you $40,000 or $50,000 a year, you either have to get student loans and go into debt to go to that college, or there's just no way you're going to get through that college. And if that's the case, I strongly recommend against applying to expensive schools like that, because even if you get in, are you going to get student loans? Are you going to get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of student loans every year to graduate 4 years of college and be in debt when you're 22 years old and have 80, 90, 100 over more $1,000 of student loans? That's crazy. I think that's crazy. I do not think that's a good idea. I strongly believe that, okay? I strongly feel that is not a good idea. So, what I would recommend, if money is an issue, apply to state schools. Okay, apply to state schools, state public schools. If you apply to state public schools, you're going to get in-state tuition. So the tuition is going to be a lot less than if you went out of state to a public school. If you live in Maryland and you go to Penn State, that tuition is going to be way more expensive than if you went to UMBC or Towson or College Park. If you live in Virginia and you go to Penn State, that's going to be a lot more expensive than if you went to George Mason or VCU or Virginia Tech or UVA or William and Mary. Okay, I mean, that's going to be a different thing. So I would apply to state public schools, and if at all possible, if it's I don't know, this is different for everybody, but if it's maybe within an hour commute, I would commute from home. I would not commute to the school. Let me just give you an example. Here in Maryland, UMBC costs about $12,000 a year. Tuition and fees per year is about $12,000. Okay? Room and board is about $12,000. Okay. People say, what's room and board? Room and board is living in the dorm and eating their food on campus. You usually get a meal plan and it costs money. Okay? So you're living in a dorm, eating the dorm food. That is called room and board, basically. Okay? So that's about $12,000 a year. Tuition and fee is about $12,000 a year. I'm rounding this off, of course, it's not exactly dollars and cents, but it's about that much. So total for UMBC in a year, about $24,000, okay? Now, there are other fees and things like that, but about $24,000. So what happens if you commute from home? Well, your college cost just went down about 50%. So instead of paying $24,000 a year, you're now paying $12,000 a year. But let's say you did pretty good, you had a pretty good GPA, pretty good SAT, and they give you $8,000 a year. Or like one of my students recently got a $10,000 a year scholarship to UMBC. Oh, wow, if you're commuting from home, you're only paying $2,000 a year, basically. Man, any kid working any part-time job, even like 5 hours a week at minimum wage, can make that much a year. I mean, you can really work part-time and just pay your own way through college if it only costs that much. That would be the smart thing to do. Okay? Even if you get accepted to College Park or Johns Hopkins or some place like this, and it's going to cost you a lot more per year, I personally wouldn't do that. I would go where I get the most money. I'm going to UMBC. They're giving me $10,000 a year, and I'm commuting from home, and it's only costing me $2,000 a year. Can't give that up. Okay? That's like a full ride. So I would go to that school, I would do well, I would graduate, and I would get really good at what I do, and I can be successful in my career. Okay? This goes back to the premise that it doesn't really matter what school you graduate from, because that doesn't determine your success in your career. Now, if you still believe that in your head, you need to go watch a lot of my older videos about this. I made a lot of videos about this, because the school success equal, career success. Do the students who get the best grades go to the best schools, higher ranked schools? Do they get the highest pay, and on and on and on? And the easy answer is no. The short answer is no. The people who get paid the most, who are most successful in their careers, are not dependent upon what school you went to. It is dependent upon how good you get at what you do, period. It is results based. If you're really good at what you do, you'll get compensated for that. If you suck at what you do, it doesn't matter what school you came from, you're not going to get paid very well. That's just the bottom line. So I would go to the college that gives me the most amount of money. Now, that means that when you make your college list, you got to make sure that you're including schools. Now, some students tell me every year, yeah, but Mr. Kim, I don't want to go to that school. I don't want to apply to that. I wouldn't go to that school. Again, because people are thinking that college rank has something to do with success. Okay? Or it's just, my mom would kill me if I went to that school, because it would embarrass her. Well, if those are your values, where your ego is tied to your school name, I don't have much to say about that. Okay, just deal with it. Okay, if that's how you define your own self-worth, your self-esteem is based on what school you went to, okay, then that's the values you live by. Then apply to the schools that are better ranked and on and on. And that's your life. You can live it that way. I don't think of it like that. Okay, so just from a practical standpoint, make sure you apply to enough safety schools, and then I would go to the school that gives me the most amount of money. You also want to take into account geography. Where do you live and how far off do you want to go? If you live on the east coast of the United States, do you want to go to a UC school that's 3,000 miles away? Now, some people are okay with that. Again, There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying those are things you have to consider. And so there are a lot of things that go into play, but ultimately I think it's not as difficult or as complicated as people think. It splits into two categories. Let me just recap. If your parents have enough money where you don't have to worry about money, you don't need financial aid. Okay, they have a lot of money, they'll pay for whatever school you go to. Apply to a few safety schools, and then you apply to any school you want, anywhere in the country. Okay? If your parents are not that wealthy, you don't have that much money, and you must get student loans. You will apply for financial aid. You need to get student loans in order to go to college. I would just apply to the local state schools. You mean like just like 3 or 4 schools? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Apply to those schools, and then with the aim of commuting from home, if at all possible. I mean, if you live 3 hours away, obviously that's not possible. But if you live 30 minutes away, an hour away, I would commute and save the $12,000 a year, okay, or whatever it is. So it'll reduce your college expenses by half. Okay, so that's what I would do. And then I wouldn't even worry about out-of-state public schools or, now unless you did very well, you have a very good GPA, very good SAT score, then you might want to apply to some private schools because, maybe, again, but even then, some safety ones where they're more likely to give you money. The colleges that are most likely to give you money are the safety ones, the super safety ones. So that's what I would do, okay? Now, there are, of course, other factors in determining who gets in and out and things like that. I don't want to go into all the details here. If you have questions, and there are other videos I made about different things like underrepresented minorities and what that means and how to get the biggest scholarships. Those are all other videos I've made. So click on the playlist, the college prep advice playlist on my channel, and then just the videos pertaining to college prep advice show up. Because there are other categories like money and personal finance, parenting advice, career and business success, and mindset for success. If those don't interest you, don't just look at the most recent videos. I mean, click on the playlist for college prep, and all the college prep videos that I made will show up. And those are the ones that I would encourage you to watch if you're a student and if that's what you're interested in learning about. Okay, so that's how you want to use my channel to your advantage, to your benefit. So do that. If you have any questions though about this or whatever, put them in the comments. I've been getting questions and they're great, and I answer them as quickly as possible, or I'll make a video on it. But I'll end the video here, and I'll look forward to your questions if you have any. And until my next video, please stay well.